This video is sponsored by the coldest water. Before I get into this video, I just want to give you guys a quick reminder that I am now doing one-on-one consultations on Wizio. I offer a wide range of services from how to be confident to how to love yourself to advice for small YouTubers and so on and so forth, and I'm going to be adding more services in the future. So click the link in the description to access my Wizio and get your personalized one-on-one video advice today. Now, I usually don't do email consultations, but I'm making an exception today because I want to give you guys a preview of what you will get when you go to my Wizio page. So this is probably the last time I'm going to do an email consultation video. But without further ado, hey Jordan, first and foremost, I want to give you consent to make a YouTube video on this if you for some reason choose to. I don't know if you respond to emails like this, but man, I would really appreciate it if I could get your advice on this. Back in mid-June, I went on an annual church trip, and without getting into too many details, I started talking to this one girl and we hit it off quick. On the last night, we went to an arcade and I was all over her and everyone thought we were dating. Over the span of a little over a week, we had been talking with romantic intent, but it was already tricky because I knew she'd be moving to North Carolina to go to college, and despite my willingness to try and pursue a relationship long distance, she was not willing, especially after having been in a toxic long-distance relationship of her own. Looking back, it's definitely a good thing that we didn't try to be a long-distance couple, as we both need to be focused on ourselves, and I can almost guarantee it wouldn't have worked, especially considering how little we still knew each other up to that point. There was still a day in which me and my friend had left church, and she stayed and talked with my other friend. At one point or another, a story was either altered, lied about, or just told improperly. But I was told that the reason she started talking to me was to make her ex jealous, who was also on that trip. I instinctively let my insecurities take over and jump to conclusions, as situations such as these have happened to me in the past, and I've seen it happen to friends of mine and just other dudes in general. From there, I got insecure and I started to ask a couple of my friends in our friend group if she had said anything to them about me. I even had my friend FaceTime her without her knowing that I was in the room. However, she suspected that I was there, but when she asked me about it, I denied it, and I still don't know if she believes that. But I was lying to her simply because I was embarrassed at how low I had stooped at that point. After thinking on it for a day or two, I realized how much I was tripping over this whole situation. And I realized that even though I don't truly believe that her intentions, and even based off of my friend whom she actually spoke to, I was misunderstood. So I decided to man up and apologize to her, and she was cool and understanding about the whole situation. And by this point, we had come to the conclusion that we both need to be focused on ourselves. So we were both under the impression that we'd continue to be friends moving on, at least for the time being. Throughout the next couple of weeks we spent as friends, it became obvious that there's still some attraction on her end. We'd be all up on each other in the car, holding hands and stuff, and other physical contact. Even when we played Truth or Dare, my friends were making attempts to be wingmen and would ask her questions about me, and based on her answers, there's definitely still attraction there. Behind closed doors, throughout all of this, over the next couple of weeks, she was still in Georgia. I was thinking about her nonstop, as despite how little time we spent together, no other girl has made such an impact on my life in the same sense or magnitude. She made me realize that I was seeking her validation due to a lack of self-love. For the past couple of years, I've received validation from females who likely struggled with self-worth themselves, and those were the girls who were easy to dub. But now I had received interest from a female who liked me, but knew she was bad by herself, and I didn't know how to handle that because I was seeking her validation. I was actively working towards getting over her and letting go of us as a potential couple. The last night we hung out before she finally left really made me realize how much I wasn't over her. I feel as though I was kind of masking it to make myself believe I was progressing faster than I was. I'm sure the fact that we were still hanging out in the manner in which we were didn't help. A couple of days after she left, I realized that at least for the time being, I need to try to distance myself from her and pretty much everyone for the most part. I'm trying to learn to love myself instead of looking for that love in other people. I do want to have some type of relationship with her in the future, as she is really a great friend and person in general. But the problem is, I don't think I'll be alright with being just her friend. I don't know when or if she'll be ready for a relationship with me, and I'm not holding out hope for that. But I also don't want to be her friend without knowing that we're working to be potentially more than friends. She had talked about moving back down to Georgia if the volleyball wasn't good, and she's not expecting it to be. I thought about taking a trip to North Carolina in 2 months or so to see her, but I'm starting to rethink it. I promised her I would come to see one of her volleyball games, and although I don't owe her anything, I really would like to see her play once, and I would like to see her in general. But also, I'm not willing to subject myself to that until I can truthfully say to myself that I've let go of expectations, outcomes, and control when it comes to us. Throughout this whole process, I've been trying to make sure I embrace my feelings and don't try to hide from them, which is something you taught me. The main thing I'm stuck on, and my reasoning for sending this email in general, is to get your take on where I should go from here as far as being her friend and my feelings towards her. I've allowed myself to have feelings for her and haven't even tried to deny it to myself. I just don't know if I should be working towards breaking off those feelings or if I should just continue to acknowledge the fact that I do still have feelings for her. Plus, if I were to try to break off those feelings for her, what that process would entail. I low-key have a feeling that my feelings towards her may be what's keeping me from letting go completely, but I've also made strides towards becoming better despite my feelings towards her. I just don't know what my next move is, and I know you can't just completely analyze me and my thoughts, but I'd really appreciate your opinion from the outside looking in, and maybe you could get me out of my own head. I appreciate you, bro. Keep being you because you're absolutely killing it, and I'm so grateful for your content. Okay, Zach, out of all of the dilemmas that I've ever gotten throughout my YouTube career, this is probably the one that I am the most equipped to answer because I've been through a very similar situation to this. Obviously, the details were different. Maybe I wasn't as physically intimate, but I understand what it feels like to develop an emotional and spiritual intimacy with somebody and then try to scale it back to just being friends, especially within a short amount of time. It can really, really mess with you. And I'm going to tell you what I personally did so that you can avoid doing what I did, because I would not recommend doing what I did because it messed me up for a long time. Now, my mentality when I went through a similar situation as this was I need to make sure that I leave no stone unturned. I need to make sure that I have no regrets about the idea that I didn't even try to see what type of potential we had as more than friends. That was my mindset. And that's the reason why I ended up being an all-time Hall of Fame level simp. I was down atrocious because of this. I had this mindset that I need to make absolute sure that we are not meant to be together or that she does not like me. Now, something that I didn't understand at the time, and this took me really until my relationship ended to realize this, but it is possible for somebody to like you, to be attracted to you, not even just from a physical standpoint, but from an emotional, spiritual standpoint, a mental standpoint, but not want to be with you. And it took me a very long time to truly grasp this because I didn't have the emotional maturity to understand this. Now, based on your email, you definitely are far ahead of where I was at the time when I was going through that type of situation. You're way further along than I was because I didn't understand the concept of self-love. I didn't understand that maybe I should take time to myself to let go of this attachment and focus more on loving myself and developing a stronger relationship with myself. But you already seem to be on the right track in that sense. So give yourself props for that. Now, here's what I personally would recommend. I would recommend not trying to be friends with this girl. And I know that's probably going to hurt. It's probably going to hurt. And that might not be the best advice. It really depends on you and your emotional maturity level. Maybe you have the emotional maturity to just be friends. But me personally, in my experience, I've tried that one time in my life. And I'm never going to do that again. To be friends with somebody that I know I still have feelings for. Because that is a terrible feeling. I'm talking about absolutely miserable. Sometimes I think back to those times that I would hang out with this girl, and I have a tendency to romanticize those times in my head. But truth be told, at the time, I was actually miserable. I did not like our arrangement. I despised it because I knew that I wanted more. And I don't know about you, but I'm the type of person that can't settle for anything less than what I know I want. It's either all or nothing for me. And I decided that I wanted all, and she decided that she wanted nothing. So things worked out in the end. But for you, if you feel like you can handle that, if you feel like you have the emotional strength to handle that on a consistent basis, then hey, by all means, go for it. But I know me personally, I can't handle it. I can't handle it at all. Now, I think that the distance dynamic also adds a little extra resistance in there, just because you don't know what she's doing. And you've said that you have insecure tendencies. And I mean, having your friend FaceTime that girl while you're in the room in secret, that is an insecure tendency. I think that right now, you really need to take the time to just focus on yourself and develop that relationship with yourself more. That doesn't mean that there has to be any resentment towards her. It doesn't mean that she should be resentful towards you for not wanting to be friends with her. But I think that you have to be honest with yourself and really understand that you're probably not going to want to settle long term for just a friendship. Because imagine if you're friends with this girl and then she meets somebody else. How would that make you feel, knowing that you can't do a damn thing about it? I know me personally, I would be sick. I would be absolutely sick if that happened. So I don't put myself in that situation. But like I said, maybe I don't have the emotional maturity for that, and maybe you do. And if you do, then props to you. That's something that you can pursue in that case. But don't shortchange yourself. I think that communication is key, and at some point or another, your feelings are going to slip out. And like I said, she has those feelings as well. It seems like she still has feelings for you. And if you both have feelings for each other, I understand the mentality that you feel like you should be together, because that's the mentality that I used to have. But at the same time, sometimes you're just not ready for a relationship. And it seems like she's not ready for a relationship, especially if she was just talking to you to get back at her ex, which obviously, like you said, things got lost in translation. But just that fact that that even came out at all, the fact that that was even like an idea, that's kind of a red flag in my opinion. I'm not saying that it was true, but something like that, you shouldn't just completely brush it off. I'm not saying you need to cut her off because of that, but just be mindful of that. If nothing else, at least put some space between the two of you, which it seems like you're already doing. You said that you're putting distance between you two and you're just distancing yourself from everyone. You're taking some time to really do some introspection, which is good, because that's something that I didn't have the courage to do at first. I was forced to do that through external circumstances. But I'm very glad that I did, because that's how I got to where I am right now, to have this degree of emotional maturity. And by you taking that initiative to do it before you get your heart broken, you're in a good spot. And I'd like to see you stay there. I'd like to see you avoid having to go through what I went through. But some people have to learn through experience. It is what it is. If I didn't go through the things that I went through, I wouldn't be able to make this video. I wouldn't be equipped to answer this question. So with that being said, you just need to put some distance between you two. You need to have some space between you two where you can really do some self-reflection. Figure out if you really even like this girl. Figure out if you actually genuinely like this girl, or if you just liked her because you felt lonely. These are the questions that you need to ask yourself. And I know the answer may seem obvious, but you never know. You never know until you ask yourself those questions and really get down to the root cause of everything. Why did you attract a girl who is not ready for a relationship? These are the things that you need to be thinking about, because that was something that I personally had to deal with for months, just attracting girl after girl after girl who was not ready for a relationship. Until I realized that the reason why is because I wasn't ready for a relationship with myself. And that was being reflected to me through my romantic interests at the time. So, like I said, you never know. These things can really sneak up on you, but pay attention. Pay attention to the situation. Take a step back and look at everything for what it is, without your biases. And you'll learn a lot about yourself through that process. But you can only do that if you allow there to be space between the two of you, which it seems like that's already going to be done anyways, because she's going out of state for college, which is good. But just make sure that you take things slow, focus on yourself, and put the friendship on hold. If we're being honest, put the friendship on hold. If it's meant to be, then it'll be. If it's not meant to be, then it's not meant to be. But the only way you'll truly find that out is if you let go of her. And that doesn't mean that you can't have feelings for her anymore. It just means that you have to love yourself enough to prioritize your feelings for yourself over your feelings for her.